All right, welcome in everyone. Ready for another deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring this really neat feature inside Tableau. Dynamic sets. Ever play around with those? I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of this one.
Yeah, dynamic sets can be super useful. For folks out there who are maybe newer to Tableau, just a quick reminder, it's that powerful tool that helps you visualize all that data you've been working with. Charts, graphs, dashboards, you name it. And dynamic sets, they're like this little extra boost that helps you make those visualizations even more insightful and flexible.
Okay, so before we get too far into this, let's break it down a bit. For anyone who might not be totally familiar with Tableau lingo, what exactly do we mean when we say a set in Tableau?
Sure. So a set is essentially a way to create a subset of your data based on certain conditions you set. Imagine you've got a giant list of all your customers. A set allows you to carve out a specific group from that list, like say all your customers who have spent over a certain amount or all customers from a specific region.
So it's like creating these custom little categories within your data, but with a lot more intelligence behind them.
Right, exactly. And in Tableau, you've got two main types of sets. You've got fixed sets, where you manually choose which data points belong. It's kind of like making a hand-picked list. And then you've got dynamic sets, which is what we're really going to focus on today.
Okay, so dynamic sets. That sounds interesting. What makes them so special compared to those fixed sets?
The key difference, the thing that makes them so powerful, is that they're not static. They change, they adapt based on what's happening in your data. So as your data updates, your dynamic sets automatically update too.
So no more manually going in and tweaking everything every time your data changes.
You got it. It's a huge time saver. And that means your analysis is always staying current, always reflecting the latest trends. And that's the beauty of it, this ability to segment your data on the fly without having to do all that manual work.
Okay, I'm starting to see the potential here. But let's dive a bit deeper. What exactly are dynamic sets at their core? How do they work their magic?
So essentially, they are collections of data points. Think individual customers, specific products, or whatever dimension you're analyzing. And these collections, they're not fixed. They're constantly updating based on either changes in your raw data or even, get this, through interactions someone has with your visualizations.
Wait, hold on. Interactions, you mean like someone clicking on a chart or something?
Yeah, exactly. We'll get into that in a bit when we talk about set actions. But for now, the key thing to remember is that dynamic sets are all about adaptability. They give you this live, up-to-the-minute view of your data.
Okay, that's pretty slick.
Yeah.
So besides the automatic updating, what else can dynamic sets do? What kind of superpowers do they have?
Well, a big one is the ability to define them using conditions or formulas. So let's say you want to create a set of all customers who have spent more than, I don't know, $1,000 in the past year. You can set up a condition for that, and Tableau will automatically include any customer who meets that criteria. And if a customer later drops below that spending threshold, boom, they're automatically removed from the set.
So it's not just about ranking things. You can actually set up specific rules based on the values in your data.
Exactly. And once you've got these dynamic sets, you can use them in so many ways. You can filter your data to focus just on the members of a particular set. You can use them to highlight specific data points in your visualizations, like maybe coloring all the high-spending customers in green. And you can even use them to make comparisons, like looking at the average purchase value of customers in one set versus another.
And I think you mentioned earlier that they can even play nicely with calculated fields, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That opens up a whole other level of analysis. You can combine dynamic sets with calculated fields to get really specific insights. For example, you could create a dynamic set of products that are seeing a decline in sales. And then you could use a calculated field to figure out, say, the average profit margin on those products compared to products that are doing well.
Okay, now we're talking. I'm starting to get a real feel for the possibilities here. But let's shift gears a bit. How about we walk our listeners through the process of actually creating one of these dynamic sets?
Yeah, let's do it. So step one, the obvious one, make sure you've got Tableau open and you're connected to your data, got your data source loaded up and ready to go.
Data's all set. What's next?
Okay, so step two is actually creating the set. Go over to your data pane, usually on the left side of your screen. You'll see a list of all your data fields, your dimensions and measures. Now, right-click on the dimension you want to use for your set. It could be customer name, product category, whatever makes sense for what you're trying to do. You'll see an option that says Create Set. Go ahead and click that.
All right, I've clicked Create Set. What happens now?
Okay, so this is where the magic happens. A new window pops up, and this is where you get to define how your dynamic set is going to work. Now remember, we're focusing on dynamic sets, so we're going to mainly be using the condition and top tabs here. You'll see a general tab too, but that's more for those fixed sets where you're manually selecting things.
Right, we want that automatic dynamic action. So let's start with a condition tab. What can we do with that?
Okay, so the condition tab, that's where you set up those rules we talked about earlier. You can use it to create a set based on specific criteria. So for example, let's say you want a set of all customers who've placed, say, more than 5 orders. You go into the condition tab, choose the number of records field, and set it to greater than 5. And Tableau will automatically keep that set updated with anyone who meets those criteria.
Okay, so that's using a number. Can you use other types of conditions too?
Oh.
Like based on text or dates or something?
Oh yeah, for sure. You can use all sorts of conditions. It all depends on the kind of data you have and what you're trying to analyze. Like maybe you want a set of all customers whose last name starts with the letter S. You can totally do that.
Nice. So a lot of flexibility there. What about the top tab? How does that work?
So the top tab is all about ranking. You can use it to create a set based on, say, the top 10 performing customers, the bottom 5 selling products. You get the idea. You choose how many you want in the set, and then tell Tableau which measure to use for ranking. So, for example, if you wanted a set of the top 10 customers by sales, you'd choose top 10 and then select sum of sales as your ranking measure.
Got it. So if a customer suddenly has a really good month and cracks into the top 10, they'll automatically get added to the set, even bumping someone else out if they need to.
Yep, that's right. It's dynamic, always adjusting to the changes in your data. And once you set up your conditions or top ranking criteria, all you got to do is hit OK, and your dynamic set is ready to roll.
Sweet. Dynamic set created. So the big question now is, how do we actually use it? What can we do with it in our visualizations?
Oh, tons of stuff. One of the most basic but super useful things you can do is filtering. Just drag your dynamic set from the data pane onto the filter shelf. Tableau will then give you the option to show either just the members that are in the set or just the ones that are out of it. So if you want to focus your analysis on just your top performers, you can easily filter out everyone else.
Super handy. What about other ways to use dynamic sets? I remember you mentioning something about interacting with them directly.
Right, right. That's where set actions come in. They're like the secret weapon for making your dashboard super interactive and engaging. So with a set action, someone viewing your dashboard can actually change the membership of a dynamic set just by clicking on things in the visualization.
Whoa, wait, hold on. So like if I click on a specific region on a map, it'll change which data points are included in the set.
Exactly. So maybe you've got a bar chart showing sales by product category, and you've got a dynamic set for your top selling products. You can set up an action that says, when someone clicks on a bar, update the set to only include products in that category. So now when someone interacts with your dashboard, they're essentially controlling the set membership themselves, which means they can really dive deep into the specific data they're interested in.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. It takes things to a whole new level. And I know we also talked about using dynamic sets to highlight things. Right?
Yeah, definitely. So let's say you've got a scatter plot showing your customers, and you've got a dynamic set for, say, customers at risk of churning. You can drag that dynamic set onto the color shelf in Tableau, and it'll automatically color those at-risk customers differently. So they really pop out in your visualization.
That's super helpful for drawing attention to those key data points you want to focus on. And didn't you say something about combining sets as well?
Yep. That's where things can get really interesting. You can actually create combined sets that look at the relationships between different dynamic sets. Like, let's say you've got a dynamic set of customers who made a purchase in the last month, and another set of customers who signed up for your loyalty program. You can combine those sets to see, for example, how many of your recent purchasers are also loyalty program members. Or you could look at the overlap between customers who bought a specific product and customers who live in a certain region.
So we can create these super specific targeted segments to answer some really granular questions. Cool. Okay, so we've covered how to define them, how to create them, how to use them. It's a lot to take in, but I think some concrete examples might really help solidify things. What are some real-world ways people are actually putting dynamic sets to work?
Absolutely. So remember that example we talked about earlier, the top 10 customers by sales? That's a classic use case. Sales teams love this. They can create a dashboard that's always showing their top performers. And as their sales data changes, the dashboard automatically updates. So no more manually generating reports every month.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for keeping track of your key accounts, seeing who's bringing in the most revenue. What are some other scenarios where dynamic sets really shine?
Well, another really common use case is for highlighting high-value transactions. Like imagine you're an e-commerce company and you want to quickly identify any orders over, say, $10,000. You can create a dynamic set based on that condition and then use it to maybe color those orders red in a table or a chart so they immediately stand out from all the other transactions.
So it's not just about identifying those big numbers. It's also about seeing if there are any patterns there, right? Like, are those high-value orders all coming from a certain region or a certain type of customer?
Exactly. Dynamic sets make it super easy to spot those trends and dig deeper into what's driving them.
And what about that example with the customizable dashboard filters? That sounds pretty neat.
Oh, yeah, that one's a favorite. So imagine you've got a dashboard showing like website traffic from different countries. You can create a dynamic set for country and then set up a set action so that when someone clicks on a specific country on a map, the dashboard filters down to just show data from that country. It's like instantly giving your users the ability to explore the data on their own terms.
That's awesome. It's like putting the power of analysis right into the hands of the user. So before we wrap up, any party words of wisdom for folks who are ready to start using dynamic sets themselves?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, don't be afraid to experiment. Dynamic sets are really fun to play around with, and there are so many different ways you can use them. Second, take advantage of those set actions. They're a game changer for making your dashboards truly interactive. And lastly, remember that dynamic sets are all about flexibility and adaptability. So think about how you can use them to create visualizations that are always staying up to date and always providing the most relevant insights.
Solid advice. So to sum it all up, the real beauty of dynamic sets in Tableau is that they allow you to go way beyond static reports and dashboards. They let you create visualizations that are constantly adapting to changes in your data or to direct user interaction. It's like having a live, breathing view of your information.
That's a great way to put it. Dynamic sets truly empower you to explore your data in a much more dynamic and insightful way.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into dynamic sets. We hope you learned a ton and are excited to try them out yourself. Until next time, keep exploring.